What skills should PR students have? Well, it's a people business. I mean, it is public relations. So you have to really, I don't want to say, oh, I really like people, because that's what a lot of students say. If you work with people enough, you don't like them anymore. But I would say you really have to want to interact with people and be communicative, you know? Like I find when I teach students who are in non-PR, non-advertising, non-communications things, like they're studying accounting or other areas of business, they're fine. But if you ask them something, they tend to give like a one-word answer, you know? And when I used to have them do presentations about like a campaign, like they'd have to come up with a campaign, they'd start with the budget. Like that's the most boring part, you know? And so I think most of the students that I've had in PR, advertising, communications, they tend to come, you know, the ones who've chosen it, they tend to come kind of from a communications sort of background where they like telling people about things. Do you know what I mean? Like if they find something interesting, their instinct is to tell somebody about it as opposed to just thinking, you know? I mean, it's just a different kind of point of view. And that then translates into real hardcore skills like being able to write well and being able to speak and present. Those are things PR people tend to be really good at and to get you the job. And creative thinking, coming up with creative ideas. I mean, you can teach that, but it's kind of easier to teach someone how to write good English. But coming up with creative ideas, that's really what employers are looking for. Well, I don't know. I mean, a lot of people would say writing, because, you know, it's really important to be a good writer and to be able to write well and, you know. But it's more, whatever field you pick when you go to university, it's more that you're kind of being initiated into the field and how people think, you know, and how people in that field think. Now, for example, in the business school where I teach PR but also marketing classes, we had a marketing class, second year, undergraduate, and at the end of that class, part of their assessment was what's known as a viva. And a viva just means this, basically, where you come and the tutor asks you questions and you kind of have to defend the work that you did and things like that. And I said, this is brilliant, because at the end of your second year, you should be able to sit with someone in the field and have a conversation about marketing and using the terminology. Do you know what I mean? Like students will say, oh, like we want to take an ad because like it would just get to lots of people. No, you should be talking about reach and frequency and target markets. The same with PR, you know, bylines, headlines, press releases, things like that. You should be familiar with the way people think. So I think it's never just the one class. It's kind of throughout the course, and this is why I think one of the best things about this course, well, this university, is that there's so much interaction with professionals. Like tonight in your class, we have a guest speaker. And you know, just that you get to, and going to the networking events the way we did the one night, it's like you get to be around PR people and see how they think and what they're talking about. You know, they're always talking about what's in the news and television shows that are on and things like that, because they're just always thinking about the media. So I really think that's the most important thing that you get out of any course, is just getting familiar with how the field works, who the key players are, and just that kind of thing. It's more important than any one particular skill. Well, I mean, obviously, oh, we want you all to have great jobs, you know, but I always say, if the day you finished your last class, you hit the lottery and you won 84 billion euros, you know, for the rest of your life, and so you never had to work. I still think that with this type of degree, that what you get is a certain way of thinking, communication skills, and also, I think particularly in PR, marketing, advertising, you become a much more critical consumer. So when you're watching BBC, you're thinking, oh man, that PR person got that story on there. How'd they do that, you know? Or even with advertising, why did they choose that model? Why did they choose that slogan or that logo? I mean, I think particularly today, that I always tell my students, you're the most marketed to generation on the planet. Nobody else in their 20s, even me, has received this much marketing messages. And so I think it's real important that you're able to look at them critically and know they're selling me something. You know, good for them, but just being able to analyze things. So it's really kind of a way of thinking that you get. Now, we hope that in most cases that leads you to a job that you enjoy. I mean, that's kind of the point of getting a qualification, is that you'll be able to spend your working life doing something that you enjoy doing instead of something you hate. But I think there's a danger in looking at it as just only for employment. I mean, that's why it's higher education. It's years ago I was told this is not training. We're not training people to be PR people. It's education. So you're getting the skills, but you're getting the thinking, the analytical qualities too, which is really important. Oftentimes they're derided or made fun of, or here there's a real negative connotation to spin, because Tony Blair was one of the first prime ministers to really, to visibly use PR. Margaret Thatcher had done it too, but he was the most kind of blatant about it. And so I think there's this British reaction of, it's just spin, you know, whereas in America we kind of know it's all spin, so who cares? So there is this negative kind of view. I think that's particularly linked to political PR and maybe large corporations. But when you're talking about like charities and nonprofits and things like sport relief and comic relief and stuff like that, the Olympics, and then people go, oh, isn't that wonderful? And all this stuff. But that's, you know, both of them are PR. So I think there's kind of a natural misunderstanding in terms of what PR people do. But, you know, why should they understand what we do? And it's our job to tell them. Isn't it funny that PR has such a bad image, right? And so to me, it's more communication, taking information, redoing it to reach a certain target public, persuading people to do things, but it's also informing them about things like quit smoking, eat less, and exercise. All that's PR too. So, you know, it's kind of hard to say. I think in some cases it does have a negative image and a negative perception, but I think people who work either within the industry or work with PR people see the value of having that skill of being able to communicate. Come to BCU, of course. If they want to study PR, come to BCU. I would say, you know, the important thing once again is making sure that it's what you really want to do. I mean, PR people don't do it for the money. I had a student, she was a master's student, not here but in the States, and her boyfriend had told her, well, you know, and she came, we had lunch, she was asking about it. She said, well, you know, he told me if I'm going to max out around 6 figures, that, you know, if you're thinking that way, just don't go into PR. You know, there's some PR people at the top. I guess Max Clifford makes a lot of money, who knows? And, you know, heads of agencies, things, they do quite well. I mean, I know someone now who is a partner in an agency who's thinking of teaching, but it's a pay cut. My job is a pay cut for this person. But, you know, you can't do it for the money. I mean, if you just want money, be a plumber. You know, they're going to make more money. So you have to take that out of it. And you have to think, well, I'm going to study PR because at the end, I think that's what I want to do. And also because of the process, of the kinds of things. I mean, to me, if you're looking at a course and you're looking at the module titles, most of them should make you go, ooh, as opposed to, what's that, you know? And so I think you have, like with ours, PR strategy and practice. I'm hoping that when students see practice, they go, oh, this is great, I'll be able to do some PR stuff, you know? So I think in choosing any course, you have to have that. It has to be something that you really, particularly a master's, you know, course. I mean, undergraduate, when you get in, sometimes you have some flexibility of moving around a bit, but when you've chosen a master's degree, you're kind of in that subject, so you have to like it. So I think it's a gut feel for what you really enjoy doing.